Hello, this is Newsfeed. 36 hours. That's how long Gaza was hit by a near total communications blackout over the weekend. Internet and telephone lines went dead as Israel intensified airstrikes and expanded its ground presence in Gaza. With communications cut, Gazans began using the megaphones at mosques to communicate and give people hope.
Israelis cut the internet connections, signals of phones, so we don't have connections today. And the bombing is still going on. They are claiming that there's Israeli troops entering Gaza from the north and the east. We're stuck here in the city. We don't have connections. I don't know actually when I'm gonna upload this story. Okay, there's no lights in the place that got struck.
وهينا في اليوم ال21 بطل في سيرفس. يعني لو انت قاعد بتموت ما بتقدر ترن على الاسعاف، لو انت انقصفت ايش مصاري ما بتقدر ترن او تتواصل مع حدا. انا مفروض انقل للعالم ايش بيصير، طب انا في غزة ومش عارفة ايش بيصير، لا في نت ولا في شبكة ولا قادر تتواصل ولا في وقود انك تتحرك بالسيارة ولا في كهرباء ولا في اي اشي. يعني انا مخي ولا عمره في حياته كان ممكن يستوعب انه نوصل لهاي المرحلة، او انه في دولة ممكن تكون عايشة في هذا الاشي وباقي العالم عم بتفرج. يعني انا هذا الفيديو ما بعرف اذا حكون قادرة انزله، حيرجع يصير في شبكة، مش حكون قادرة انزله، بس صراحة at this point everything feels pointless. عن جد everything feels pointless.
Attention, citizens of Gaza, listen carefully.
Israel has also been widely criticized for releasing a video on social media advising Gazans to head south after cutting off communications in the enclave. Journalists like Mehdi Hassan have questioned the validity of the Israeli military's urgent message, seeing as it'd be impossible for the people of Gaza to receive it without internet and power. As the internet was gradually restored on Sunday, footage of the scale of the devastation began to trickle out to the outside world. The first videos from Gaza after Israel's internet blackout show entire civilian neighborhoods flattened in what many describe as the conflict's heaviest bombing to date. Some clips show starving and thirsty Palestinians forced to drink seawater and using their phones to find thousands trapped under rubble.
People still trying to get a body from under the rubble of the house. The artillery keep bombing the warplanes. As you know, it's a refugee camp, a shop refugee camp. It's so crowded. It's crazy here.
Rights groups have condemned Israel's internet blackout, saying it didn't only prevent people from communicating with loved ones and accessing life-saving medical treatment, but also provided cover for Israeli war crimes and other violations. Holocaust survivor, physician, and author Dr. Gabor Mate has joined the chorus of criticism against Israel.
In a certain deep sense, I feel that it's the worst thing I've seen in my whole life. And it's impossible to compare atrocities. I mean, nothing compares with the mechanized murder of 5-6 million Jews by the Nazis. But what is different about this is that I've never seen anything so publicly committed, such atrocities perpetrated on television, and the victims are presented as the perpetrators.
The internet blackout prompted many online to call on billionaire Elon Musk to provide Gaza with internet through his Starlink satellites. After all, he did do the same thing with Ukraine when Russia began its offensive. But the Tesla chief responded saying Starlink would only support humanitarian efforts by internationally recognized groups. Musk said his company would check with Israeli and U.S. authorities before providing a connection. And so far, no one from Gaza has tried to connect with a Starlink terminal. This led many netizens to call out Musk for double standards and question why he didn't ask the Russians before providing the Ukrainians with Starlink. Turning on the internet in Gaza, even with Starlink, is not easy, though. Starlink requires ground units to work, and it's unlikely that there are any present in Gaza, or it would be allowed by Israel. There's also no fuel or power in Gaza. Now, more than ever, civilians and journalists in the area deserve internet access. Journalist Mirna El-Habawi has started a campaign to collect eSIMs from around the world to send to people in need. They've distributed the SIM cards through a handful of people with internet access in Gaza. Later, a communications startup, Simly, joined the effort and collected over $70,000 in less than 24 hours. The startup said in an Instagram post that hundreds of eSIMs have already been distributed to journalists, doctors, and civilians. The enclave started to get back online on Sunday with some disruptions, as confirmed by monitoring firm NetBlocks. And these eSIMs can be the much-needed backup if the internet gets cut momentarily or altogether again. Israel has ordered that the Al-Quds hospital in Gaza City be evacuated amid intense fighting and shelling in the vicinity. Tel Aviv alleges that Hamas is hiding out in tunnels under hospitals. Around 14,000 Palestinians are said to be taking shelter there. Medical staff say it's too dangerous to move many of the patients and are refusing to abandon them.
The Palestine Red Crescent Society has received today serious threats from Israeli occupation forces to evacuate Al-Quds hospital immediately because it is going to be bombarded. Israeli authorities also hold responsibility on our organization for the safety of all the people who are inside the hospital. We refuse this and we announce it repeatedly. We don't have the means to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. We have over 400 patients who are inside the hospital. Many of them are in the intensive care unit. Evacuating them means killing them. That's why we refuse the evacuation order. We call on the international community to intervene immediately to stop a humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
A UN official warned that hell is settling in Gaza, and aid groups are pleading for a ceasefire. Israel warns that its upcoming incursion will be long. Thousands of Gazans have been killed, and when Hamas released a list of their names over the weekend, it was 200 pages long.
It's time to end the indiscriminate bloodshed and massive attacks on Gaza. Today, it's impossible for our colleagues to work safely because of widespread attacks on healthcare, which have impacted hospitals, ambulances, medical personnel, and patients. Doctors Without Borders or Médecins Sans Frontières staff who remain in northern Gaza tell us they are exhausted both mentally and physically. They describe a medical emergency that is worsening every day with constant bombings and dwindling supplies to treat the victims.
The International Criminal Court's prosecutor in Egypt is trying to get into Gaza. The ICC is investigating both Hamas and Israel for alleged war crimes.
Very much hope to be able to enter Gaza and also going to Israel on this particular mission. The suffering of children and women and men, old and young, is profound and it is ongoing. As the Secretary General of the United Nations has said, as the head of OCHA has said, Martin Griffiths, as the head of the World Health Organization has said, there's a dire humanitarian situation developing. We have active investigations ongoing in relation to the crimes allegedly committed in Israel on the 7th of October, and also in relation to Gaza and the West Bank and our jurisdiction going back to 2014. This is a moment of objectivity, it's a moment of quiet reflection, and it needs to be a moment in which the international community and the international architecture built on the rubble of the Second World War, the terrible gas chambers and the Holocaust, the razing of cities throughout of Europe, was meant to create institutions that would ensure never again would we see abominations where people could be targeted because of their race, their religion, their culture, where they come from, or what passport they hold. Those promises need to be fulfilled.
Thousands of people worldwide continue to take to the streets to protest against Israel's bombardment and in support of the innocent and vulnerable people of Gaza. Here's just a few of those demonstrations calling for Israel to stop the bloodshed.
In New York City, organizers called for protesters to flood Brooklyn for Gaza. And that's exactly what they did, forcing all the lanes of Brooklyn Bridge to be shut. Over in Europe, London was one of a number of cities across the region to urge an end to Israel's attacks. Police said around 70,000 people gathered in the UK capital, holding flags and banners, demanding an end to the bombing. More flags and banners as thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters marched through the streets of Madrid on Sunday. They were demanding an immediate ceasefire with cries of freedom for Palestine ringing out from the 35,000-strong crowd. Many protests across the Middle East, including this one in Beirut. Hezbollah Deputy Chief Naim Qasem said Hezbollah is fully prepared to join its ally Hamas in the war. In Islamabad, protesters chanted Labbaik ya Gaza, we are here Gaza. Waving flags, the marchers chanted anti-Israel slogans. Support was also intense in Kuala Lumpur. Two former prime ministers led demonstrations in the capital, while Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim attended a fundraising launch for Palestinians. And in Sydney, rallies were held for both sides of Israel's war on Gaza, with the Australian government told to support peace and do more for the Israeli hostages.
Let's just go back to New York for some more protests, these ones taking place at Grand Union Station. But there's a difference. The vast majority of these protesters are Jewish. The images posted by Jewish Voice for Peace show thousands of Jews staging a sit-in to demand an immediate ceasefire and end to the Israeli government's bombing of Gaza. Rabbis, elected officials, celebrities, elders, and children joined together to send a message of peace in the face of genocide. Nearly 400 were arrested in what organizers claimed was the largest sit-in New York City had seen in 2 decades. This weekend saw the unexpected death of actor Matthew Perry at the age of 54. Perry propelled to sitcom superstardom in the mid-90s for playing sarcastic joker Chandler Bing on the hit TV show Friends. We leave you with some of its best on-screen moments.
I'm not playing hardball here, okay? This is not a negotiation. This is a rejection. No, stop saying numbers. I'm telling you, you've got the wrong guy. You've got the wrong guy. I'll see you Monday. Man.
Well, why don't you correct him?
Oh, it's been going on way too long now. You know, I mean, the first time he said it, we were just passing each other in the hallway, so I didn't say anything. And then the next time he said, hey, Toby, you want a donut? And I wanted the donut. And now it's 5 years later, the donut's gone, and I'm still Toby.
I cried for 3 days with that movie. No, wait, 2. Because on the 3rd day, my mother killed herself, so I was partly crying for that.
Well, see, now that I can see crying over, but Bambi is a cartoon.
You didn't cry when Bambi's mother died?
Yes, it was very sad when the guy stopped drawing the deer.
Okay, should we get some coffee?
Sure. Where?